Hello everyone and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today it's going to be Calico versus Cascadia. Both of these games have some similarities and so they have been compared to one another. There's also some differences as well. Some of the similarities include that they are both tile drafting games where you are trying to get similar things together in order to score points. But there are also quite a few differences as well. And so we're going to take a look at these two games, see how they play, and see which one comes out on top in my opinion. Okay, let's talk real quickly how Calico plays. And so in this game you're going to have three different cats set up with different patterns that they're going to want to get. And you're going to be striving to do that, as well as you're going to strive to get these different goals on your board. For instance, this is, you don't want any equal patterns or colors around. So you want all different patterns, all different colors if you're going to fully score it for 15. If you want one or the other, you're going to score it for 10. This one wants 3 of one pattern, 3 of another pattern, or 3 of one color and 3 of a different color surrounding it. This one here wants 3 of one color, 2 of one color, and 1 of one color, and same for the patterns. You get 7 if you get one of them, you get 11 if you get both of them. And so you're going to, on your turn, you're going to play one of the 2 tiles that you start out with. And so let's say you wanted to play this one here because you're going to try to get these dots together to be able to get that cat attracted to your board. And so then you will pick a piece, so pick this one maybe, and then that will get refilled. Your opponent will pick a piece and play it on their board, and boom. Then back to your turn if it's a 2-player game. So you put this one here. It's going to give you a button for points because you made 3 purples next to each other. And then again, you'd have to pick another piece. Let's say you pick this one, and then it refills. Your opponent picks one, and it refills again. And then you come along and you say, well, now I've got this piece here. I'm going to put it here. And then you pick another piece. And so on and so forth. Your opponent picks a piece, but I wanted to mainly do this to show you. Do this. Now you're going to attract one of these cats to your board, the one that wants the 4 in a row there. So you're going to put that there. You're going to get 7 points for that cat. And so you're going to do this. You're going to try and get buttons by getting colors together. If you get one, each color, you're going to get a rainbow button as well. You're going to be trying to fulfill these by trying to get the right amount around them to get points. And so you got all these different things you're going to be working towards. And it's not going to be as easy as that. Kind of set things up to where it's easily able to get this done really quick, but it's not going to be that easy when you are getting random tiles from the bag and when your opponents are taking things that maybe you wanted. But that's basically how the game goes. You're going to score points at the end of the game for how many cats you attracted, for the buttons you got, and the goals that you were able to complete. Okay, let's go over the basic gameplay for Cascadia. You're going to set out one card for each animal at the beginning of the game, and they are going to give you what you are trying for that animal to score points. Whether it be trying to get a line of elk, or a run of salmon, or a hawk that's not next to any other hawks, or a couple of foxes with different pairs around it, or grizzly bears in these different numbers right here together. So you're going to be trying to get animals out in your wildlife area over here that will score points. And you're going to do that by drafting a tile and one of these animal icons. And it has to be a pair. So it could be these two, these two, these two, or these two. I might start out by drafting these ones right here. And the reason for that is, first of all, this right here is going to give me 2 mountains next to each other. That's going to be important for scoring because the most mountains that you have connected to one another, you're going to score 1 point for each one in there. And if you have the most of any given habitat, you're going to score 2 points for that habitat. And so this is good because I'm getting that started, as well as putting an elk here where this acorn icon is. And so by doing that, you get one of these acorn icons. The acorn icon is a point at the end of the game, but you can spend it during the game for some powerful abilities. You can spend it if you happen to like this fox but wanted this tile. You can spend one of those to be able to take one of each of these rather than having to take it from a pairing. You can also spend it if you don't like any of the animals that are out to clear the animals and pick new animals. And so you can either spend it for important times that you might get something good, or you can hold on to it to the end of the game for a point. At the end of the game, you're going to score points based on what you scored on these, for your habitats that are connected to one another, and for your acorns that you have left over. Person with the most points wins the game. Okay, let's get to comparing these two games. Let's start with the components and artwork. Now there's nothing extremely amazing about the components themselves. Most of them are fairly basic cardboard. There are a few things that stand out though, and the artwork is nice for both of these games. As far as these tiles look really nice. These are going to be set up for your goals for how to attract different cats to your board, and there's a different cat on each side. The artwork looks really nice on these. I really appreciate all these different cats here. And so, love the artwork there. Calico also, you're going to have this dual layered player board where you are going to be able to put your tiles down into. Now, Cascadia doesn't have anything quite like that. You're actually going to start with just this tile right here, one of these types of tiles, and you're going to kind of build out without any kind of restrictions there. You also have for Calico these little tiny cat pieces, which are pretty cool. You have all these different buttons that you're going to be placing on your board. And so you got a lot of nice tactile things going on there as well. For Cascadia, you're going to be having these types of terrain tiles that you're going to be putting down. They look fine. There's nothing that really, in my mind, stands out terribly about them, but they have nice iconography on them so you know which animals you're allowed to put there. They both have very nice bags that you're going to be drawing things from. In this one, in Calico, you're going to be drawing your tiles out, and in Cascadia, you're going to be drawing these really cool components out right here. These wooden pieces that are going to have different animals on them. And so I really like these. These are probably the highlight of both of these games. One more component I'd like to bring up for Cascadia are these cards, and they look really great. I love the artwork on these cards. And so appreciate that very much. And so as far as components and artwork goes, they're both good, but I'm going to give the edge to Cascadia, both for the artwork on these different cards here, as well as especially the components right here. These wooden components with the animals on them really kind of give it that punch up that it needs to be able to edge out Calico as for the components and artwork. Now let's talk about replayability. Both these games have good replayability. And this is because of the fact that you have different goals you're going to be going for. Each of these different cards for Cascadia represents different goals. You have 4 different bird cards, 4 different foxes, 4 different bears, 4 different elk, 4 different, I think that's all, salmon. And so you're going to be playing with one of each of those at random, or if you're using a scenario, they'll tell you which one to use. And so you're going to have all these different options for that coming up. Also the randomness of how things are coming out of the bag, how they're going to be paired with the terrain with the different animals. And so you're going to have a different puzzle every time that you play this game. And so I find the replayability for Cascadia high. I find the replayability for Calico to be high because of the fact that you have different goals as far as what the cats are going to go after. Different goals as far as what you're trying to do on your board. You're going to have this stack of tiles you're going to place 3 of them at random on your board, and then you're going to have to try to get things differently. And then things are going to be coming out of the bag. It's going to be so different every game what you're going to be trying for as far as your patterns go. You have different boards that you can play with that are going to have different around the outside that's going to give you a slightly different puzzle. And so there's so much different ways that things come together in different ways that it's going to be a completely different game each time. Both of these have great replayability, and so they tie on replayability. Let's go ahead and talk about theme. The theme is there for both of these games. It's not a huge theme. Here you are trying to attract cats to your quilt with different patterns, as well as trying to get colors together so it looks aesthetically pleasing to the human eye as well. And so you're going to be putting buttons down when you do that. And so there's a bit of a theme there. But there's also, it's quite abstract as well, and so the theme is there. It's not huge, but it's there. Cascadia, also same kind of idea. It's a bit of an abstract game. You are building out a habitat, and you are filling those habitats with different animals as fitting to what the different things are. And so there's theme there. Neither one of them are huge on their theme, but it is there, and they are nice and have a nice aesthetic to them because of that theme. And so I'm not really going to give an edge to either one on that either. Let's go ahead and get into the gameplay itself. Now here's where we're going to see some differences. I'm going to talk about multiplayer first, and then I'm going to talk about solo play. So as far as the multiplayer game goes, Cascadia, you are starting out with kind of a tight kind of grid, and you're expanding bigger and bigger and bigger, and your options get more and more as the game goes along. Calico is the exact opposite of that. You start out with this board and you can go just about anywhere you want, but then you're going to be closing in more and more, and there's going to be less and less pieces that are going to work for you as you get towards the end of the game. And so you find yourself at a real crunch as the game gets closer to the end. Now, as far as the way that there's interactions between players go, there's not a whole lot of interactions anyway in either of these games, but the interactions come in which pieces you're going to take before it comes to somebody. Now, in Cascadia, you're not going to find that big of a deal if somebody takes the piece you really wanted, the combination that you really wanted, because something else is going to come out usually that works. Calico is a different story, especially as you get towards the end of the game. There's 3 tiles out there, and towards the end of the game, there may only be one of them that works for you, and the person right before you took that, and something else came out that doesn't work at all for you. And so there's a lot more of that kind of angstiness as far as what comes to you as the game goes along, and your best laid plans can be just ruined because you can't find the tiles that you need or the person before you took the tile that you need. And so a lot of frustration can come in Calico, especially towards the end of the round, and as people take things that you want maybe, or just the thing you want doesn't come out. Whereas Cascadia, you're getting more and more options towards the end, and if you don't get exactly what you want, you can make something work a lot easier. So Cascadia is a lot more friendly in that kind of sense, and a lot lighter, and not as easily to be frustrated by the luck of the draw there. And so in multiplayer, I find that Cascadia is a little bit more enjoyable to me because of the fact that it's not so tight, and you don't get this kind of pressure to try and get everything right as you do with Calico. Calico, it's a very tight puzzle that gets tighter and tighter as the game goes. And so I'm going to give the edge in multiplayer gameplay to Cascadia because of the fact that it's just a much more light, friendly kind of game, and it's a much more relaxing type game than Calico, which can get very stressful. Now, as far as the solo play goes, when I made my top 10 solo list, which you can go check out right now if you want to, or at the end of this video, and in that list, I listed Calico on that list, and I didn't list Cascadia on that list because I hadn't played all of these scenarios as much. And so I did make an honorable mention of it in the comments in that video, but I didn't give Cascadia the knock there because I hadn't played it as much on the scenarios, which that's really how the solo works, is you choose one of the scenarios and you play it and you try to beat it. There are 15 scenarios for Cascadia, there are 10 scenarios for Calico, and you are trying, and it gives you certain things that you need to try to accomplish, certain things sometimes that you're not allowed to do, and so you're trying to do that. And as I looked at the Cascadia ones, they didn't seem to be as complicated as Calico at the time, and somebody asked, why not this one? I was like, well, I haven't really played it. I looked over them. It's not really seeming like it's going to be that complicated as Calico was. Well, has my opinion changed now that I've played all 15 of Cascadia's scenarios? I still give the knock to Calico for solo play, and that's because the puzzle is more difficult. I've lost many more times in the 10 scenarios that I attempted to complete in Calico than the 15 scenarios that I played in Cascadia. And Cascadia, with their scenarios, most of them practically play themselves. They'll give you a certain animal that you need to complete the amount, or you need to get certain points for, or terrain that needs to be scored a certain way, or something like that. And so you're automatically going to start going, well, I need this animal, I need this terrain. And so it almost starts playing itself because you know exactly what you need. You've been prescribed what you need to pick up and how you need to place things. And so it almost plays itself. There's a little bit of tactical awareness that you need there, but not nearly as much as Calico. The scenarios in Calico, they give you some tough challenges to complete, but how you go about completing those is up to you for the most part. Which patterns you're going to grab to try and complete the scenarios. which cats you're going to go after as much, or if you're going after all three, exactly where you're going to try and form those cat patterns to attract them. There's a lot more decisions to be made in Calico when it comes to the solo scenarios. Well, the scenarios, because you can play a multiplayer or solo. And so because of that, because of the difficulty of Calico, the fact that it really gave me a challenge much more than Cascadia did, and that felt like I really had a lot of options to strategize for, even though sometimes I'll admit that Calico comes down to the luck of the draw a lot towards the end of the round as to whether you're going to, or the end of the game, or whether you're going to win or not. That can be frustrating, but I still like the stronger, more difficult puzzle that Calico offers compared to Cascadia as far as the solo play goes. But now it comes down to the final thoughts. Overall, which of these games do I give the nod to? Is it Calico with the stronger solo mode, or stronger scenarios? Or is it Cascadia, which I gave the bump in multiplayer to and the bump in components? And the answer is Cascadia. Calico, I give a 7.5 out of 10. It's a good game. I enjoy it very much, both solo and multiplayer. But Cascadia, I give an 8 out of 10, giving it that slight nod. So Cascadia is the victor between Cascadia and Calico. Although I will say, for solo, I still keep Calico in my top 10 solo games. Cascadia falls just short of that when it comes to the solo, because the scenarios to me just weren't the challenge that Calico was. The puzzle wasn't as satisfying to me as the puzzle for Calico. But overall, it's Cascadia because of the way the multiplayer plays, the more relaxing kind of nature of it, and just the components themselves give that slight knock. I really love these wooden pieces and the artwork on these cards, even though you don't really pay that much attention to the artwork during the game. It's nice. And so I give that edge to Cascadia. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below, which one do you like better, Calico or Cascadia? And I'll catch you in the next video.